Okay, it's 5:30, so I'd like to call this meeting to order. Regular Planning Commission meeting. Today is Tuesday, December 2nd. The land that we know as Sequim was once inhabited solely by First Peoples known as the S'Klallam people, represented by the three tribal governments, Lower Elwha S'Klallam, Jamestown S'Klallam, and Fort Gamble S'Klallam. We serve as stewards of the land within the city of Sequim with the same care and consideration the S'Klallam tribes has and continues to provide. This acknowledgement is a respect to the S'Klallam people and their history. The Planning Commission serves as an advisory body to the City Council. The purpose of the Planning Commission is to provide guidance for Sequim's future growth through continued review and improvement of Sequim's comprehensive plan. Sorry about that. I had something pop up. Zoning code, shoreline management, environmental protection, and related land use documents. The Planning Commission will have all of the powers and perform each and all of the duties specified by Chapter 35A.63 RCW as amended and set forth or amended by ordinance. Roll call. Emily, will you please take roll call?
Sorry, my mic wasn't working. Yes, Commissioner Kuntz.
Present.
Commissioner Cummings.
Here.
Commissioner Fain.
Present.
Commissioner Habel.
Here.
Commissioner Hewitt.
Present.
Commissioner LaFever.
Here.
Commissioner Mihalik.
Here.
Thank you.
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, approval of minutes. So we have the minutes for the joint work session on November 18th and the Planning Commission meeting on November 18th. We did double duty. Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes? And if so, is there any corrections that need to be made or comments? If not, I will take a motion to approve. Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, none opposed. Move it. Minutes stand approved as written. Thank you. Public comment. General public comment will be heard at this time. Each person is limited to 3 minutes. Is there anybody online that would like to provide public comment?
No one is online.
Okay, and seeing no one in the room, I will move on to general business, which is the comprehensive plan status update.
All right. Thank you, Planning Commissioners. It's good to see you all. I hope everyone had a good holiday. We're excited that we're nearing the end of the year and significant body of work. So for the status update, I'll, as always, just turn your attention to page 2 and just note that tonight we're finishing the housing chapter or the housing element component, which is the technical documents. And obviously that's our next agenda item. So we'll talk more in detail about that. And then at our last meeting in the year and in the month will be the economic development chapter. And I was able to, Leland Consulting did help us draft that, as well as bringing in components of the market and report, the market analysis that you had the joint meeting on. And so we have a draft and we've been able to kind of send it out to our economic developer partners for their review prior to coming to you. So I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to make that as far as timing goes, but we did. And so I'm excited to have their kind of review on it and comments before it comes to you. So hopefully it's a fully rounded document. That is our hope. And so I did want to note a couple things. That we are working on the 2026 schedule for you. It shouldn't be a surprise that you will continue to be busy into 2026. So we'll be continuing to meet your regularly scheduled meetings. There will probably be 1 or 2 times where we'll need to add a meeting into the month. So there may be 1 or 2 months schedule. We'll be doing a combination of development regulation reviews. So the subdivision ordinance, the land division ordinance, Title 17 that we've been talking to you about a couple months will be coming your way in January for sure. We'll also have a code amendment package for Title 18, our zoning, that is housing specific, that Travis has been working on, and then we just actually handed it off to Leland Consulting, who will help us finish that package as well. Those what we will have in that is amendments that are required under the state. The state legislature's amendments that they've made over the past few years, and a couple ones that we're recommending inclusion. But again, it will be housing specific. And then we'll be looking at, that will be kind of your January, February, and probably a little bit of March. And then we'll be going right into then the comprehensive plan, public release, and starting all of that public facing outreach, as well as continued review of the comprehensive plan and the capital facility plan. The let's see. So those are kind of the big things. So I'm hoping to have a schedule for you at your second meeting this month, so that you can, know what at least the first 6 months of 2026 is going to look like, and what you'll be doing during those meetings. I did want to also note that there's a change on this status update since we sent it out. I just wanted to note, in case you were thinking of tuning in, I will be doing the Coffee with Colleen not tomorrow, but next Wednesday, the 10th. And I will say that the material that I'll be sharing will be primarily from the PowerPoint that Leland Consulting already shared during the joint Planning Commission City Council meeting. So it's not necessarily new information to you all, but obviously will be new to the group that will be joining the meeting. And so I'm excited to share a lot of that information that we've been learning and enjoying as part of that report with the larger community. So with that, those are my comments on our status update, and happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you. Does the commission have any questions? No? Okay, thanks, Carla. Let's move on to new business, the 2025 comprehensive plan. Oh, never mind. Okay, yes. Comprehensive plan appendix A, supportive housing documents.
Thank you. Well, I do have a PowerPoint that I'll be sharing with you, so we'll let Emily get that loaded up. But first of all, I wanted to note that we do have some special guests. We do have our consultants from Leland Consulting Group, Jennifer and Andrew, online, and they are available to answer questions. So I presume while we're giving a PowerPoint, Emily, that if we need to, Jennifer, Andrew can still unmic and speak to questions as they come up. Okay.
Yes, I made them presenters, so they have full power.
Okay, you have the power, Andrew and Jennifer. That's great. So very happy to have them here. I will give you a couple kind of introductory comments here. First of all, I apologize. My PowerPoint is very boring and bureaucratic looking, and it's full of words. So it's not going to be as fancy as Leland's, so I apologize for that. But I did want to, your assignment for this meeting was a lot of technical documentation. Some of it had repetition in between a couple of the documents. And so I did want to at least provide a framework for tonight's meeting, and that's what the PowerPoint pretty much serves as. So each document has about 5 to 6 slides, which are really just highlighting are identifying some highlights of the document. I don't go into great detail, but I do at least give a flavor of what is being reported in each of the 4 documents. And then we pause at the end of each document, and that will be the time for you to let us know what your questions are, or your comments. So we'll go document by document. We're not going to go page by page, but hopefully, are we not having the PowerPoint? Okay, well, we'll see if it comes back. Otherwise, but we can do a plan B, but which is not to show the PowerPoint and just go document by document. So,
Well, Larry was really looking forward to that.
I got pages and pages.
well, I think while we're doing that, I will take this moment to introduce our new senior planner, Scott Radin. Gosh, I'm sorry, Scott Radin. He's our new senior planner, and he's joining us tonight. So he started yesterday. So he brought the good luck came in. So there we go. So we look forward to having him. We're happy that he's joined our team, and he will be joining us at future planning commission meetings. So,
Well, welcome. We'll do a little introduction and go to the order once we get through all this.
Great.
We've got a bunch of questions to ask you. No, I'm joking. Okay. All right, Carla, we're ready for you.
okay. Thank you, Emily and Travis. Thank you for the magic touch. I looked at it. Okay. All right. So go ahead and next slide. So tonight I'll be kind of introducing the 4 documents that were in your packet. And as I mentioned before, these are requirement updates to the Growth Management Act that requires cities and counties to provide new housing analysis. And these are specific to the housing element. And so under GMA, it's now, now the term is housing element needs to include, in addition to the chapter goals and policies, it has these these 4 documents, these 4 analysis. So they are planned to be included in Appendix A of the comprehensive plan, and you saw how they were going to be structured and the way they were presented to you. So there'll be documents Appendix A1 through A4. We'll start off with the housing needs assessment. Go ahead, next slide. And so the housing needs assessment used to be a kind of recommended and optional component that now is a requirement and has become a little bit more comprehensive in what needs to be included in it. And so it includes demographic trends, household characteristics, housing supply, affordability challenges, workforce patterns, future unit needs. And again, they form the technical foundation of the housing element. You probably saw that a lot of that information mirrored the demographic information from the housing and economic market analysis report that Leland did. They also did the housing needs assessment. So some of the sourcing is a little bit different, but the information is pretty much the same and kind of still tells the same story that you saw in the market analysis. Next slide. So again, just a couple highlights here, things that you've already heard about. So we have been growing. Our population's been relatively, at a stable 1.5% to 2% growth rate in the past 5 years. We have a notable older population when compared to other jurisdictions like the county. So our median age is 57, the county is 51, and the state is 38 years old. And so again, no surprises to you all. Household sizes are small, and nearly half of all households consist of a single person. So and that's an important demographic, and you also saw that in the market report as well, as this may indicate some needs for smaller units or smaller accessible units or some different types of different housing types than the standard single family house, given the one person household. Next slide. So the housing affordability highlights. So 42% of all households are cost burdened, and that includes 59% of renters. So 59% of the city's renters are cost burdened. And the lower household incomes and households of color experiencing disproportionate of those cost burdens. And then the median household income is 48,105, below the county and state medians. And like we noted before, that is reflective of a segment of our demographic, but it also doesn't include retirement and other that retirement type income that may supplement that median household income. So it tells part of the story, but it does track with our older demographic and our smaller household size. We had a section in there on special housing needs. So again, this was something specific from the state legislature. And so here's some, again, some highlights of the data that was presented. 40% of the households include one person with a disability. So that's a relatively high proportion. Again, tracks with some of our other demographics. Homelessness was looked at on the regional basis, at the county basis, with 214 unhoused persons. That data came from Column County and their point in time. Thank you. I was trying to remember that point in time survey that they do once a year. And then, as I'm sure you know, Sequim has no emergency shelter units, and we have 16 permanent supportive housing units, and that's the Serenity House. So moving on to our workforce profile highlights, the city has about 4,600 jobs, primarily in healthcare, retail, and food services, and 14% of those workers live within the city limits. And so you saw, and again, we talked about this in the market analysis too, commuters coming in, commuters leaving the city as well. And then the wages, again, nothing too new here. Wages in those sectors do not align with the housing costs, and that is contributing to the workforce housing need and discussion that is happening countywide. So this is our housing supply highlights, and these are, a lot of this information comes from census and is supplemented by some of the information from our department as far as permitting goes. So I won't walk through each of these bullet points, but the one thing that I think is interesting is the third bullet point, where a typical home value has grown by 85% since 2006. So in the last 20 years, it is consistent with what's been happening in Washington State and in the region. And we have seen some values slow since 2021, but they continue to be, on an upward trajectory, as everybody knows. And then the last bullet talks a little bit about, more about the cost burden. So we learned in the previous slide about the cost burden of home ownership, and that renters have the higher proportion of it. And what we're finding in this data point is that those that are cost burden are making less than the 30% AMI, which would make sense of being, spending most of your income on your housing. So the report concluded with the gap analysis and future housing needs. So after kind of reporting the data and taking a look at kind of the state of housing in the city, the report concludes by taking a look at the housing allocation given to the city by the state of through Commerce and the Department of Commerce and Column County. And as you know, we've talked about it multiple times, the city's been assigned 1,850 housing units. That's our 20-year housing allocation. And then it is broken up by income bands that you saw in the report, and you've also seen that in the housing chapter as well. And that our current zoning does show a marginal surplus of capacity for the lower income units, but with a couple of the site-specific rezoning application requests we got in from property owners to the zone that they were requesting and that we were supportive of and you were supportive of, that when we added that into the land capacity analysis, it showed that it increased the availability of units at the needed income bands. And so now there's a much more meaningful surplus of the 0 to 80%, because according to the Commerce guidance, like multifamily apartments are what will serve that income band, and the zoning request by the private property owners allows for and supports multifamily apartment housing units. So our land capacity now, we will talk about our land capacity analysis in just a minute, but it does have a role to play in the housing needs assessment. So we've made it through. That was our biggest document, but again, those are the highlights of it. And so I don't know, Emily, if you want to risk turning it off and leave it. Okay. But so that way, then, if there's a question for Jennifer and Andrew, Jennifer and Andrew, just feel free to unmic and speak up to it. So we can see them. Okay, fantastic. They're behind me. So anyway, I open it up to you, Chair, back to you to facilitate any questions on the housing needs assessment.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions? Eileen, did you want to? Okay. Go ahead, Eileen.
So my biggest issue usually is the definitions of some of the terminology. And so when there was a section in here that talked about mobile homes were the same thing as special housing. What does that mean?
Yes, we have the same question. So I know Jennifer and Andrew have the answer to that. So whichever one wants to answer.
So that is from the state or the census terminology, where they're grouped together, mobile homes and special housing. Special housing can be things like houseboats or RVs or just other types of housing.
So just not a stick-built kind of
Exactly.
situation on the ground or whatever.
And you were able to
Interesting.
kind of drill down a little bit more to get more accurate mobile home data for this, as I recall, because we asked the same question.
Okay. And
Is that right, Jennifer?
Yes, that's correct.
And is there a clear
Sorry to interrupt that.
Oh.
I was just going to say that they're split up on page 16 and figure 27. The mobile homes are split out there, so you can see the numbers. But yeah, the special housing inventory is sort of one of those checklist items that things are grouped together in that way.
Okay, thank you. Larry? Oh, were you done, Eileen, or?
I'll just do one more.
Okay, sure.
A definition of cost burden. Now, what in the world does that mean simply?
So cost burden means that a household is spending more than 30% of their income on either rent or mortgage and utilities. So your cost burden if you're spending more than 30% on housing.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Carla, you brought up some valid points, which I think were new to me. So, for example, in your income, they don't include Social Security. In your income, they don't include the sale of a house. So there's a lot of income that isn't being picked up. Mm-hmm. And as I started to kind of listen to all of this and try to put the puzzle together, I think that's playing a bigger factor. And I'm wondering if there's a way that our consultants can kind of remove that noise, because I don't think our numbers are as low as we're calculating them, because we're just going by these definitions. I know a lot of wealthy people I don't know any billionaires, but that report zero income.
Right.
Right. And we have a lot of wealthy people here in this county. We have a lot of wealthy people in this, maybe they live in the city, I don't know, but so I'm wondering if there's a way to remove that noise, because I don't feel as bad when I walk outside the building as when I read these numbers.
Right. Well,
That's my comment.
yeah, I think I'm going to make a comment, and Andrew, then I'll send it over to you to kind of elaborate a little bit. We actually had a really good conversation. Travis and I brought up the same point. Andrew and Jennifer did make in the market analysis, actually had a number, I think a paragraph or two kind of addressing that issue. This is a little bit different because we have to kind of stick with what Commerce wants us to report in there, although we probably could take the language from the market analysis and put it in here as well. But Andrew, I know that you guys did some research and spoke to that based on that very comment that Larry provided. We felt, Travis and I felt similarly to that.
Yeah, it's an important question. I think Jennifer pulled some numbers, Bo's the one who pulled the numbers for the market analysis. I'll pass it to her too in a second, but I think that it's important to remember, like Carla said, not only that the Commerce and GMA housing requirements do want to look at specific data points, among which is median household income as reported by the census, but also that the city's housing targets that we talked about, targets by income band, are tied to that median income number, and the definition of what 80% of the AMI is also tied to that number, and HUD uses that number to determine eligibility for subsidized affordable housing. So there's a lot of things that are tied to the number, although I totally agree that it doesn't necessarily reflect reality, especially in certain communities where there are a lot of people who aren't reporting earned income as much, but still have a lot of disposable income. So I think that I agree with Carla. I think we could bring some of the language in here to qualify the number, but I think we need to leave the number in for the sake of sort of GMA compliance. I don't know if you want to add anything, Jennifer.
Yeah, I was just going to say in the market analysis, I think we found that about 46% of households have some retirement income coming in, which does indicate that probably they're not earning, an income from a job. So there's probably some of, wealth from selling a house or capital gains or anything else like that. Unfortunately, there's not really great data on household wealth. So yeah, like Andrew said, we can definitely qualify that.
Okay, thank you.
Will has his hand up.
Okay, go ahead, Will.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to dovetail off of that. Well, I think it's really important we get an accurate picture. It's also pretty important to consider that people who don't own a home or aren't collecting Social Security and they're just working in general, I don't think they have it quite as good as some of the other people in this community. Just a note.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I think also to that point that it's important, or rather, it's tied to the way that the housing targets are determined. So as I was saying, that these housing targets are primarily focused on lower income households, and so I think it makes sense that those targets are developed sort of outside the realm of this wealth calculation, even though it does affect spending, and it does affect housing affordability, for a certain contingent of the population. But I think, as you said there, it's important to think about the other side too. And so in that sense, it makes sense that the targets are set up the way they are.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the commission? Okay, let's move on.
Okay. Alrighty, so we'll be moving to our second document, Appendix A2, the housing adequate provisions. This document Yeah, it fulfills again GMA requirement, and this is to evaluate our housing needs by all economic segments, and including documenting programs, barriers, gaps, and with attention to the job housing relationships. And so there's guidance from Department of Commerce. So this checklist, again, prepared by Andrew and Jennifer, was using the Commerce Guidance Book 2 and takes a look at regulatory process, financial, and land constraints over the 4 different housing types. So moderate density, mid-rise, which is today's term for apartments, emergency and PSH, which is permanent supportive housing, and then accessory dwelling unit categories. So these next slides are just kind of high level, walking through what each of the checklists does. So there's a checklist that reviews potential barriers of housing production for the moderate, low and mid-rise, and it looked at and it looked specifically at SQUIM's development regulations, process obstacles, land availability, and environmental constraints. The permittive supportive housing and emergency housing looked at our development regulations. The ADU, accessory dwelling unit barrier review, was development regulations and process obstacles. And then there was a checklist, which it was kind of towards the end on local optional tools that may address affordable housing funding gaps. And then we also included additional information that were optional, but we went ahead per Leland's advice, we went ahead and included it in the housing adequate provisions just to show a fully developed analysis to provide to the state, Washington State Department of Commerce, that evaluated subsidized housing inventory, affordable housing funding gap analysis, and then potential funding sources. So there's actually a lot of good information in this kind of short document, but Travis and I have been reviewing the development regulations and the process improvements. As you know, we already have kind of good big plans for those things anyways, and so this just continues to help inform and provide options for our consideration in the first draft that eventually comes to you. And, again, you're seeing how connecting the dots is that this report will help inform the development regulations that we'll bring forward to you next year. So with that, I'll turn it back over to see what questions the commission has for us or for Andrew and Jennifer.
Okay. Any questions from the commission? Eileen?
It's a pretty intense document of what they're requiring. Was anything come up that just baffled you guys, that hadn't really started in the direction of doing something in the neighborhood, or was it pretty much known entities and just needed to work in the direction to meet their requirements?
So I think I'll, do you want to answer that question? Okay. Yeah. So Travis has been given it some thought, and he is going to be our author of our development regulation updates, our primary author. So he definitely has been given it some thought. So I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I don't think anything comes as a surprise based on the way things have been trending. Especially, for us in SQUIM, we're not even getting hit with the full book, so to say. So to that extent, we're, I don't want to necessarily say fortunate, but we don't have to do everything that's being required by other larger cities. So I think, and we've had the fortune of being able to see 2024 adopters that have already kind of gone through this process. And so being able to hear their war stories, if you will, of how they've implemented things has been helpful. To see okay, so here's how they're doing it, or what's being done in larger cities or in similar cities like SQUIM. And so being able to use that, it's great because, we can see exactly what's happening. We have an idea of what to expect, what it looks like a little bit. But yeah, of course, there are things that kind of keep coming every every few months it seems like there's something new, and everybody's kind of scrambling a bit to try to figure out like, okay, well, what does that actually mean? Because there's not maybe great guidance on how to implement it. It's just hey, good luck, here you go, here's some stuff you have to do. It's a great time in planning because it feels like we're all kind of in this together statewide to try to come up with the best solutions possible. So from peer to peer, it's really useful to go to conferences and get to hear people's learned and lived experiences. But yeah, for me, nothing has been too much of a surprise. I think for us out here, parking would the day that they tell us we can no longer require parking is going to be the surprise for me, just because of where we live. But right now, we don't have to address that entirely. But so. No, I would say nothing has been too shocking, I guess, but other than a lack of great guidance on how to implement it. I think that's the missing part that I've heard from lots of folks is be great if they would tell us how to do that.
The government,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Alex?
Let's see, I was absent the session when a slight change was made. Did R4 through 8 become R4 through 9 universally, or was that just for a specific circumstance? Otherwise, there's a lot of 4 through 8 terminology in here. Thanks.
Right. So we will be based on yes, it's true. You might have been absent the meeting where we talked about the future land use map. We are recommending that moderate up zone to the R48 to R49. And so what's on the books today is R48. And with the comprehensive plan, we'll be recommending that very small up zone for the low residential, low density residential land use category to be a zoning district of R49. So it's not on the books. We will be recommending it as part of our package next year.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commission? I do have one for you, Travis. So you talked about the cities that have gone through the 2024 plan, and have you identified any other cities or communities that are kind of similar to SQUIM that you've been able to reach out to? Or
Well, we are very fortunate because Carla has actually worked for them because Kitsap went through 2024 adoption. And so Carla worked on a few comp plans for cities in those. Yeah, and our consultants as well. So, I mean, having people that have not only just the cities themselves, but having the folks that have worked with the cities has been really helpful because we're not going in totally blind.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So I mean, Bremerton, Paulsbo, those are both good ones that are not necessarily exactly like SQUIM, but
Right.
are decent for looking at for similarities.
Okay, thanks. I was just curious.
Because the rest is like King County, and that's not
Right,
That's
yeah.
not Clallam.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Yes, Alex. Thank you.
Yes. Let's see. Has any progress been made in leveling out the park impact fees on new construction to not penalize the lower income people in apartments that apparently will need the parks the most, who are least able to pay? Has any progress been made to sort of even out the load amongst everyone? Thanks.
It's on our to-do list. So we will be after the comprehensive plan is adopted, we will be evaluating our impact fees, both our transportation and our parks impact fees. There is a requirement to recalibrate them or structure them is actually a better term, to be proportionate. So it's a kind of a new proportional impact fee. Again, that's the state legislature busy at work. And so it's based on square footage of the structure or number of bedrooms. And so our impact fees will have to be looked at and again restructured based on that new requirement. Every conversation that we have with Jennifer and Andrew that talks about affordability, the impact fees come up. So we're very aware of it. I've already begun the conversation with the Public Works Department that, looking at the park impact fees is going to be a priority. It's something that we hear all the time. Having said all that, there's already a provision on the books in our municipal code that allows for waiving of the fees or reduction of the fees when they are for affordable housing for specific, percentage, 80% or less, or 50% or less. I can't remember the number, but we do already have something on the books that allows for that that waiving of the fees. And the thing about impact fees is that they're never really totally waived. Like while you may waive them for the affordable housing provider, somebody still has to pay for those fees. And so no one's taken advantage of that yet, although I think Habitat for Humanity might be interested in doing that. And so they'll have to work with the Public Works Department, when they make that formal request. But on the big picture, yes, we will be looking at both the transportation and park impact fees at the conclusion of the comprehensive plan work. So it's on the 2026 to 2027 work plan.
Okay, thank you. Larry has a question.
I just kind of want to touch on something that was just kind of mentioned about. So we know that we have a lot of seniors, and granted, they may use open spaces, but not like playgrounds and stuff. So do we treat, and they're also a big band of the lower income. So is there a way that you guys for planning can bifurcate that and say this is like low income housing for a family versus this is low income family for Larry's widow? Kind of, you get what I'm saying? Because you said there's a lot of single person households too. Mm-hmm. Is that something that can be done, or it's just got to cast a big net and catch them all?
Well, I think that poses a really good question. I think at the end it's probably going to be a bit of both, in that the methodology for establishing an impact fee has to be pretty defined. Like we have to say, so there is a bit of casting out of a net, and that like, this is how we're going to calculate it. This is obviously, I just want to start off with that. Impact fees are for new construction. So it's when a new housing unit is being proposed and it's a fee assessed at the time of building permit issuance, although there is a possibility for deferral, but for the purposes of simplicity, at the time of building permit issuance is when the impact fee is collected. And then again, but I think the state legislature's assignment is exactly what you said. Like we need to be more thoughtful about how we're collecting impact fees on the different units that are going to be for our 80% or 50% or less. And they try to get at it by size. And so they are saying, like, if you have a smaller unit, you should pay less of an impact fee because the smaller units are going to help meet that income level and that income band that we're trying to isolate and support. And so I appreciate your question, because I think here in Sequim is going to be different and than what I think other more urbanized areas, which is going to be small units for, first-time home buyers or first-time renters. And here we have kind of the opposite end of kind of our life journey where we need to be thoughtful for that too. So I appreciate the comment. I think it's something we should keep in mind.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the commission? All right. Oh, yes, Alex.
Oh, an observation. In our little HOA of 44 homes, which are all 3-bedroom, 2 baths, maybe 1/3 of them are just single occupancy. mostly widows. So there's, and they live in that because there's not a smaller option 2-bedroom, maybe 1.5 bath available that would be on a single level in a nice area that's convenient for them. And so there's a lot of extra empty rooms, and single people using houses that are just perfect for young families. And sad to say, anyway, that's just observation from personal experience.
And I think that the data supported that. That was a conclusion in the housing needs assessment that perhaps smaller units for single households might be helpful, and that they're renting or buying houses that are bigger than they need. So.
Oh yes, and just for filling that need, we have a friend who's just returned to Sequim from Minnesota who used to live here before, and as he was looking around for a new place, he looked at the new batch of 2-story little condos on Hendrickson Boulevard, but he thought, oh no, I don't want all those stairs at his age, just about 80, and so you might create something that looks like it would meet the spec for the 2-bedroom option, but it actually is not going to for the elder population.
Right.
Thanks.
It's such a, I know Travis has a lot of thoughts about that. Do you want to share them? Go ahead.
We are without saying it, without getting too far in the weeds. No, we understand that, and so, one of the barriers listed on here is like prohibiting things like duplexes, triplexes, 4, 5, 6, townhomes, cottage housing, live work. We are not going to prohibit like any type other than in the more restrictive residential historically single family zone where you can do up to 4plexes, but anywhere else where residential is allowed, you can do pretty much any kind of combination of unit types. We're writing a specific provision for cluster housing to try to get smaller. You may recognize them more as like cottage housing, but I don't really like the definition the state has for cottage housing because it has to do with like open space, and the open space it's just another, so we're calling it cluster housing. So we're thinking of all types of different ways that we can just encourage different unit types of different shapes, sizes, orientations, layouts, and just like let's let the market figure out what's going to work and see what happens. So we're working on it.
Okay, thank you. All right. Well, okay, let's move on to Appendix A3.
If it's okay, I did have one comment that I wanted to share. And I was just curious because I thought maybe I might get a question on it. So that's why I waited to the end. Just at the very end of the adequate provisions, there's 2 sections here that, again, Jennifer and Andrew put together for us. It's an optional, but it does tell a little bit of the story. So they did an analysis about what an affordable housing funding gap might look like per unit for what we need to provide, and then what types of funding there would be. And I wanted to point it out because I know, Aline, it's close to your heart on this, and we talk a lot about it. And I just wanted to note again that this is the challenge. Like, the city is not the provider nor the funder. We can assist and we can be part of the solution, but we are not the solution. And the solution is hard. And so again, this page and a half of information is sobering to some degree, and it just highlights the difficulty of that 50% or less AMI provision. So I was sort of expecting a question on it, but I did want to at least highlight that. I feel like we've talked about it enough over the last, at least for sure, the last couple meetings. But this is something here that we wanted to put in to provide full disclosure and as much information as we can through this adequate provisions document. So,
Okay, thank you. Anything on that before we move on? Okay. Let's move on to Appendix A3.
Okay, so we are trucking along here. So we're at our land capacity analysis. So this is the analysis that I have done for all of our comp plans. So this is a relatively, this is one of the more standard analysis that is part of the comprehensive planning work that you do even before GMA. And so this one is taking a look at evaluating vacant, partially utilized, and redevelopable land. And the new component too is then evaluating the income band, housing capacity, and the emergency housing. The purpose of it is to assess our ability, when I say ability, our land ability to meet the housing and job targets. And the Washington State Department of Commerce does have guidance that they developed, and so we did utilize that the guidance that the guidance documents that they've provided. So I will say that I am going in the many instances that I've been so thankful that Andrew and Jennifer have come to work with us at SQUIM. The land capacity analysis was the first work we did together and was probably the moderately most painful work. So I just want to say thank you. I'm going to turn on so I can see you, but thank you both for hanging in there while we did the LCA. We started from scratch, and it had a few twists and turns in the road, but we definitely got there. So this first slide here is just basically our reporting of what's been developed since 2020, or permitted, I should say, not developed, permitted. So we had 369 units permitted since 2020, and that in combination with 458 units that are pending. So they're not finalized yet, but they can be on their way. And then about 84,000 square feet of commercial development. So again, this is land capacity analysis does a quick stop at like what's happened in the past before it moves to the forward future looking analysis. So next slide. But we do have to I will say the purpose of doing that is we do take into stock units that have not been built but can be built as part of our capacity. So that's why we take a look at it. So here's the results of it. We have a total housing capacity of 5,587 units. And again, our housing target is 1,850. So we're well above. We have a great surplus of capacity. Similar with our jobs, not as much of a capacity, but we have capacity for about 1,300 jobs. Our target is 909. Now, I know that Andrew and Jennifer did mention this at the joint meeting, but most jurisdictions don't have this luxury of having additional capacity. It does mean that a lot of hard choices that many other jurisdictions have had to make as far as upzoning, we did not have to make, and that's why we do get to continue to have the ability to take a look at our development regulations, as we've been talking about, remove barriers, open up middle housing, and still ensure that we can retain our identity and the character and the community of SQUIM that, we all value. So it's such a great place to be. So next slide. So then again, the next step in the land capacity analysis was to take a look at our capacity and what types of housing units are going to be built in the different zoning districts. And that's how we determine what income band, how those income bands are being met. But again, from the state's assignment to us by taking that 1,850 housing units and then assign them by the income band. And we found the initial analysis showed a surplus of only 4 units for that 80% or less AMI. and the rezones. And I spoke about this a little bit at the housing needs assessment. That the last couple pages of that assessment is a very short summary of this document. And so those two rezones that came in as property owner requests that are being supported will now increase that 4 units to 220 surplus units. So again, all really good news, all in really good shape. And so these are this is our emergency housing beds. And we take a look at specific zoning districts for those, the regional commercial, highway commercial, our community mixed use, and our EOA, soon to be OA. And based on the methodology set forth by Commerce on how you calculate how to determine number of beds, we have a capacity of basically 5,400 beds. And those are going to be beds in shelters, like permanent, not permanent supportive, but like emergency housing, like a shelter. And so we only need 4.3 acres to meet this requirement. We clearly meet this requirement. In fact, on a quick side note on that slide, I just wanted to note, in case you are a reviewer of city council meetings, that last Monday, I was at the city council because Clallam County made a request to move their 27 emergency beds that were in the Sequim UGA into the city limits. And that was because they do not have any of the appropriate zoning to support the shelter beds. And we had a surplus of 5,233 beds. And so it was an easy yes to be a good partner to Clallam County. And so they'll be formalizing that through their Board of County Commissioners. And we sent a letter of concurrence from the city with the city manager's signature and just acknowledging that we will take their allocation. So at the end, they will have no allocation for the Sequim UGA for emergency housing beds, and we'll have the full amount, which will result in 191 beds. So,
Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Question. In your statistics for the housing, you go back to 2020 for capacity, but in commercial, you go back to 2015. Why?
for capacity, we go back.
The development since 2015 in the very first, one of your very first charts in here.
In the very first slide.
Yeah.
Okay. If you want to go back to that, Emily, I think that was the,
The 83,000.
oh,
in
right, since
2015, but
2015.
You're in 2020 for single family.
Right. Well, 2020 is the number that we're supposed to use for pending square footage. So I feel like this was that might have been a kind of a mixing of information where, okay, so here it is. It's a total of 83 have been constructed. So I do believe, but I'll let Andrew confirm it, but I do believe that while that reported that, we would only be counting square footage that was constructed 2020 and beyond.
Yeah, that's correct. Thanks for the question. I think the main reason to look back farther for commercial is because there's been a lot less commercial development. So we just wanted to provide a picture, just in the review section of the document at the beginning, a picture of what's been happening, to encompass some more retail development that happened before the recession. Whereas for housing, as Carla said, we are going back to the permit data that we had starting from 2020. But it is true that the baseline for the whole analysis is 2020, and the Commerce targets are based on the 2020 baseline. So that 2015 look at commercial was mostly just informational.
Okay. So I think, Karen, that you can be sure that all capacities base is starting from 2020.
If you're going back 5 years, your baselines are changing, your statistics are enlarging, and it doesn't give an accurate picture, it gives an enlarged picture.
Right.
So as long as we're doing the numbers the same.
No, I agree. And especially with the employment, because we had a surplus, but it wasn't that much of a surplus. So I think that, we'll just double check with Andrew, but I'm pretty sure, but it's worth double checking. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Eileen?
I think I've asked you this before, Travis, because you always have the right answer. But it sounds like there's a lot of permitting happening. Do we ever do a statistic of completion on some of these permits, or we issue a lot and never know what happens, or we don't track it? Like, that's a better word.
I mean, we probably could. I don't. I think the numbers that we have to report on are issued and CO'd. Yeah, and so there is probably a way that we can do that so that we can so that we can adequately show what's being completed. But yeah, it shouldn't be that. I say that shouldn't be that difficult, but we did change permitting software, so we would be like making a splicing of records and things. So I mean, if you'd be interested, we could probably try.
I think too that the work you had to do basically, and going back to 2020 and getting pending units that were constructed and then that were permitted but not yet constructed, that we have the baseline now, and so we just need to keep that up. And that was I mean, Travis had to go through, and Emily, like it always is harder than you think it should be, even when you have permitting software. And I can say all jurisdictions go through this, and Jennifer and Andrew can attest, because I kept saying them, like, is everyone having this hard of time? And they're like, yes. So it's just, it's crazy because it doesn't feel like it should be this hard, but it does tend to be. But what we keep track of is and it's two things. It's land use permitting, and then it's building permits. And so we do actually have a really good baseline established right now that we had to do to give to Leland for this particular document. And so I think we can look at a way to try to keeping it forward. But for official reporting, Emily does that every year on April 1st to the State of Washington Office of Financial Management, and she reports building, not land use permitting, but building permits issued, building permits CO'd. You have to call the mobile home parks and the nursing homes and the assisted living. So, and that's how we get our annual population change from year to year.
Thank you.
Larry, did you have okay. Yes, Alan.
On that same question, you can have something like Mariner's Outlook Phase 3, maybe those for 80 homes. I guess the land use permits were given, but maybe not the construction permits. Can they withdraw? So it looks like it's a big chunk that didn't.
Yeah. So, and I mean, and that's one that has a few phases attached to it. So it's like they had approved site construction for their first phase, but not for their second two. So it definitely took some. We had to have some conversations about what do we include, what do we not include, and yeah. So yes, land use permitting was there, and so that's where you kind of see the number for pending, where they have land use entitlement, but they have not gotten to construction permits yet. So
Okay.
Yeah, and their 2 years expires or whatever their time limit was to get going.
Yeah, plats will have 5 years with most likely 2 years of extensions, and so or preliminary plats, I should say, will have 5 years to get to final plat, and so then they do have 2 years of extensions that they can ask for, at least under current code. So I know that nothing has happened on that one specifically yet, and that I think they were all up for sale at one point, and I have not heard much else.
Okay,
in a while. So
Okay, go ahead, Larry.
Doesn't a lot of this go back to the way you set this up, Carla? We can put it out there that the capacity is there, but then it's up to somebody else to get it across the finish line. There's nothing we've done as a city. We've gotten you to the starting point. Now maybe they go bankrupt. Maybe they run into other problems. And I just want to kind of state that to level set us. It's not, I mean, these numbers are excess capacity. Like you said, we're in a good place. We've done what we can do. If they can't get it across the finish line for whatever reason, that's not something we impeded them on. We got them there. So
Correct. Yeah. So I just kind of have two responses to that. So for the pending units, I mean, you're absolutely right. There's a, there's a lot that goes into being a successful home builder, and like it's not it's not a, it's not as easy as it used to be, and it's not for everyone. I mean, you definitely need to be able to withstand risk. So, so we don't know whether or not those pending units are going to get developed. What we know is that they have land use entitlement, and that's what the state guidance tells us to keep track of. And then, in addition to that, we calculate what vacant and underutilized land could be developed at. And that's what GMA asks us to do. They want to make sure that we have sufficient zoned land that can accommodate our allocation. And not only do we have that, we have a surplus. So will 1,850 housing units get developed within 20 years? I have no idea. But what I do know is that we have land for it to happen, and we're working actively on providing amendments to our zoning code that will make it easier than it has been in the past. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
I did, Madam Chair, if it's okay, I might ask Andrew and Jennifer if they had anything to add with any of our land capacity analysis conversation we've had since they were so instrumental in getting us to that place of conclusion.
Well, I just say that it's a tricky needle to thread doing these analyses, and like you just said there certainly is a disconnect between the land being available and things necessarily getting built. And I think where that comes into play right now, importantly in the picture in Washington, is especially with the income band analysis, because just because you can build multifamily housing that could be subsidized housing, or just because you could build an ADU or a small cottage unit that might be affordable more than like a luxury home, doesn't necessarily mean that they will get built, or that there is subsidy available to get them built, or that or that they will be affordable to certain income brackets. So we've done our best to try to understand through the adequate provisions analysis, which is sort of, although it's before the LCA in the document, it's sort of the follow-on analysis, like we were looking at, Carl was mentioning a minute ago, looking at how much it might cost to develop the subsidized housing that would be needed to meet these targets. And then that's tied in with this analysis, just to say that there's been some recent legal cases as well popping up at the Growth Management Hearings Board, and we expect there to be more, which scrutinize quite carefully the assumptions that go into these income band analyses, and indeed also scrutinize Congress's own guidance on how to conduct this analysis. So there's a lot of things that are up in the air right now, but the comp plan has to get finished. So we've included a lot of information here to hopefully demonstrate not only the capacity, but also that especially the regulatory changes that are coming in the next few months will provide opportunity for a wider variety of housing income levels.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on this before we move on? Okay. All right, let's go to Appendix A4.
Okay, so we're done. We're getting to the end here. So really appreciate everyone's hanging in there. So the racially disparate impacts analysis, this did come as an amendment again to GMA. It came probably in 2021 after our social justice movement, in the country. So this was state legislature's response to that. So it's an analysis we do to our housing policies that take to assess whether there's any racially disparate impacts from existing housing policies. And so things that could be impacts include segregation, cost burden, displacement, educational opportunities, and health disparities. And so again, Jennifer actually conducted this analysis for us. And go ahead for next slide. And so what you will probably, what the conclusions are, the key findings are probably not too surprising for you. Clallam County in general, as well as SQUIM, is less diverse than other areas of the state. All households no matter what their racial composition are equally as likely to experience cost burden, although households of color are slightly more likely to be. So again, what we learned from our previous data is it has to do with income. 30% or less of the AMI are going to be the ones that are the most severely cost burdened. Black and Asian households are more likely than the white or Hispanic. And then that final bullet point there that, again, according to federal data, the HUD, home ownership is most common among Hispanic and white households and much less common among Black or Asian households. And then, however, and this was a note that Jennifer made, that the households of color can be impacted by margins and error given their the small numbers in SQUIM. So. And then moving to kind of the other key indicators, looking at a shortage of rental housing. We learned about that in our the housing and economic market analysis, that we basically have this flat line of vacancy of rental housing in SQUIM. And so that certainly provides a barrier to those with the lower AMI to find adequate housing or rental housing. And then the second bullet there is in terms of income and race, 30% of the Hispanic households make above the median income. Roughly a third of the white households and 20% of Asian make above 100%, and 33% of Hispanic households are considered extremely low income, making 30% or less, compared to the 18% of white households. So again, similar to the, go ahead and do the next slide, is similar to the other analysis that we have looked at tonight. We have a bit of data collection and presentation, and then we do an analysis of policies. And so there might be some redundant data that was presented in this this particular appendix from, maybe the housing needs assessment. But that's what was used then when Jennifer went through the policy evaluation framework. And so Commerce has a guidance document on doing this, conducting this analysis, and they're recommending that we evaluate every policy and we make a determination whether the policy is supportive of removing those barriers or eliminating those impacts, approaching, challenging, or not applicable. And so we did a dual effort here where she evaluated the current comprehensive plan housing chapter and did the evaluations. That is per the Commerce guidance. But as you know, we conducted a complete rewrite of the housing chapter, and we did not forward verbatim the policies from the 2015 chapter, although certainly in concept, a lot of the ideas were continued. So she did she did also evaluate the draft chapter that you reviewed at your last meeting and determined that all of the policies were supportive, and there was a number that were not applicable, but those that were applicable were supportive. So we feel like we're in a good place as far as this analysis goes, and that we're aligned with the direction that the state legislature wants us to be for our housing policies. I think that's it.
Okay, any questions on this? Yes.
First of all, I think we're in a really good spot, but I was just taking a look at the numbers and some of our language around them.
Okay.
So, and this is on page 3. I see SQUIM becoming less diverse. We have a higher percentage of white than in 2020 than we did in 2015, where Clallam County went the other way. So it's not something we did, but I'm just thinking the text might want to point out that there is this demographic shift. But again, it's nothing that we've done by policy. It's just where maybe the Hispanic population, Latino population has moved out of the city into the county land.
This is on page 2, right?
This is on page 2. And again, I just caution about how we say in our key findings, SQUIM is about as diverse as the county, but they're kind of moving in slightly different directions is all.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on this? Okay. Well, thank you so much, especially to our consultants. for all the work that they've done.
Yes, thank you.
And to Carla and Travis. This was a pretty heavy lift here. So, does the commission have any other questions or comments or anything before we close it out? No? Okay. Thank you very much, Andrew and Jennifer. Guys
you.
nailed it.
Thanks. Have a great night.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have anything else on that, Carla, before we move on to the director's report?
I do. Yes. Thank you. So I just wanted
Sure.
to know what we'll do next. In fact, I might do it tonight or first thing tomorrow morning is we're going to bundle this package of all 4 of these documents, as well as the housing chapter that you reviewed at your last meeting. And I've reached out to the Washington State Department of Commerce and our local, our commerce person that's been assigned to Clallam County and asked if we could have an early courtesy review of these housing documents. I'm doing that for a couple reasons. First of all, clearly housing is what the state legislature cares about and wants this comprehensive plan to be about. They have tasked Commerce with a lot of responsibility for ensuring that their intentions and their new laws are being implemented. And Commerce is offering courtesy reviews of jurisdictions housing. I call it the housing bundle, the housing chapter in these 4 documents. While we're not going to, as you know, while we're not going to meet this year's deadline, I did want to get it before Commerce as early as possible for them to share any comments or concerns they might have, anything that they think we're missing, anything that they are exceptionally pleased with. Hopefully we could hear that too. And that gives us time to be able to respond to that while we're working through the process next year. So I'm very happy that they've agreed to give us that courtesy review. So I will be sending it off to our person, as well as the Commerce's housing specialist. And they assure me that they will have time to take a look at that in the month of December and give us any feedback. So we'll be able to report to you in January what Commerce has to say, but I feel really confident about what we've put together, what you guys reviewed tonight, and we'll be able to, the tweaks that you guys talked about today, I'll still be able to make, of course, but we'll send it off to Commerce and get their input. And there's another reason too, is that we, and Andrew alluded to it, there is a pending Growth Management Hearings Board decision that is on the housing chapter. It was City of Mercer Island. It had some opinions that were unclear on how they were going to be interpreted. So Commerce has been working through that too. So I kind of wanted their eyes on this too, to just see like how they're reviewing the Mercer Island case and what they're seeing in other jurisdictions. So again, happy that we're at this place, that we're in a really good shape. Everything is exactly what we want, the best case scenario, and hopefully Commerce will agree. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's move on to the director's report.
Yes, I do have a couple things. Thank you. I think I already noted this, that I won't be at Coffee with Colleen tomorrow, but next Wednesday. So if you want to join that. I already gave you the update on Title 17, and that you'll be seeing that very soon, where, Travis has worked hard. We're in a really good spot with that. So that will be your January task. You guys met Scott, and so when I'm done, if you want to do your introductions, Chair, that would be good. I did want to report to you that Emily and I did some research based on Karen's question about the reading of the tribal statement, and confirming what the city manager indicated, that the city council reads it quarterly. So if that's something, you certainly as a commission are welcome to do what you do, but if you wanted to mirror the council's policy on that, they read it quarterly. And then I did want to just kind of report out a little bit of a next step on affordable housing. And we talked just briefly about it tonight in that adequate provision section. But one of the things that the bundle of housing amendments that I was sharing with you about under the status report, that Travis queued up and did quite a bit of work, and we just handed it off to Leland yesterday. One of what they're going to do as part of their work is add more meat to the bone, make sure that it meets the state requirements, and we're also going to convene a opportunity for our affordable housing providers to meet with Andrew and Jennifer to kind of share with them some stories, share with them their challenges. Andrew and Jennifer will be able to ask them questions like what would be helpful as far as what could we put in our zoning code. So again, knowing that our role in this is very specific, it's to remove barriers. And so we're looking forward to getting that set up. We're hoping to get that done before the holidays. If not, we'll get it done first of the year, but we'll bring together our consultants with Peninsula Behavioral Health and Peninsula Housing Authority, Serenity House, and Habitat for Humanity. I got them all 4. I've been all day, I've been like, what's the 4th one? But each one had been a different one. So yeah, really looking forward to that next body of work and having Leland help continue on the work that they've already done with this packet. So, and that concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right. Well, we'll go to the order. Does anybody have anything for go to the order?
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's sort of an overlooked question I had previously. It missed its spot. I noticed that with such a high percentage of rentals in Sequim, such a big proportion of the housing market, I noticed there was a section of outstanding problems, major problems in housing, and it was extremely higher, maybe 4 or 5 times the rate in the rentals than if it's owner occupied housing. And I've read of lawsuits against some apartment complexes and things in the recent past, and kind of a problem of keeping management up to par for all these rentals. And is there any way to incorporate? Is this a place where in the comprehensive plan where there's a place for that, or what are your tools and ability to get a handle on that? Because it affects the well-being and health of a good proportion of our
Scott Radden, senior planner for you guys. So dealt with this recently in Texas, but I'm sure it's the same here. Any problems with the landlords as far as the tenants? If there should be a reasonable amount of I guess care or whatever that the landlord has to provide to that tenant. But it comes down to the Attorney General. If it gets to that point, they can call the Attorney General. In fact, the Attorney General's website should have all that information, and the renter's rights should be on there. So if there seems to be a large problem, it's probably for the fact that most people don't understand where to find that information. So I would, if you have constituents asking you, I would say that would be the first stop. I'm not sure if it's directly through the Attorney General here. Had the website had all the information on there.
Okay, that seems like quite a sophisticated step for a low-income household to try to do, but they almost need to get organized within these complexes to get some rights. Okay, and some of these apartment complexes become eyesores, and there's not enforcement of garbage and balconies and all and all around.
Yeah. And
So
if I can, I could speak to that specifically where the city council is queued up to adopt next Monday a new code enforcement section of the municipal code as well as nuisance section of the municipal code. So the city attorney and her team has drafted that and presented it to the city council. At last meeting, they'll approve it next week. It appears to be acceptable. And so I think that they have made an effort in conjunction with the police department to update those two codes to provide some more streamlined code, clarify it, and to provide ability for kind of more code enforcement opportunity. I don't want to say, I don't know if opportunity is the right word, but that it provides some code backing for the code for enforcement of those types of things that you're talking about, where that can qualify for nuisances. And that, that in general is about aesthetics and cleanliness and, of the visible portions of our city for landlords to maintain their property and, in an appropriate way. So it covers everything from junk cars to vegetation to houses. Yeah. So I do think there's a step in a direction that will address at least kind of those types of nuisances that the city can help enforce. I think one thing too that you may be aware of is that last year the state legislature did adopt new and improve, I guess, enhanced, is that the right word? Rights for renters. And in doing so, it decreased the rights of landlords. And so I think to a degree, Alex, to address what you're talking about, there is an unintended consequence that is starting to be felt. And that was talked about at last month's Housing Solutions Committee, which is some property owners are now choosing no longer to rent. So I think that has that will continue to be worked out, as well as a lot of these new housing laws have over the course of a couple of years. But Scott is right. The Attorney General's office is kind of where the clearinghouse of renter rights can live and are available for folks to review. And they certainly did get improved a bit in the last year.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else have anything for the good of the order? I thought maybe we would go around and, oh, yes, Karen.
Will does. Sorry.
Okay. Let's go Karen and then Will.
Carla, I would just like to thank you for your consistent follow through. We don't need to dog you about getting answers to our questions. You come back with them, and it's been very refreshing. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. It's my pleasure. And actually, I did mean to report, actually, is that from the questions that came from the joint meeting with you all in the city council, that we did ask Leland to provide a memo to respond to those questions. And so I'll be distributing that probably by the end of this week to you all as well. So,
okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Will.
Yeah, I just wanted to let the commission know, if it wasn't already known, there's going to be a hearing tomorrow at the county courthouse around 6. It's a hearing on the land use map changes and the comp plan itself. And some of the areas they're looking at are in the SQUIM UGA in Carlsberg. So it might be of interest to the commission to check that out.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, if you're curious, Travis can brief you on what the rezones are in the SQUIM UGA. They're moderate, but we are aware of them.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Will.
All right. So let's start with Alex, and maybe everybody, we can go down the line and we can tell Scott a little bit about ourselves so he knows what he's up against.
Okay, but before that, a big thank you to all the city staff for the beautiful tractor pull night. It took all the police in the whole peninsula probably to block off the streets, and so many volunteers set up barriers, and all the families and the young kids look like they're really enjoying it. Well, Scott, I've been in SQUIM about 8 years. Came from Minnesota. I worked in publishing my whole life, and have a little finger in all kinds of things around things.
I met Scott earlier. I'm Karen. I've been here a while, 10, 12 years, pretty much here too. My background's planning, and I came from a little town in Edgewood, New Mexico. So outside of Albuquerque, different area, very brown.
And I'm Mylene Cummings, and I've been on Planning Commission, I think it must be 5 years or something. And it's been a wonderful time. I'm still here. So looking forward to working with you. And my background is I've been in town for 14 years, and I really like it and want to help it keep the same and beautiful and, controlled growth. So welcome.
I'm Julianne Kuntz. I have been in Sequim. I first moved here in 1987 and then moved away after high school because there was no way I was going to live in this small town. And anyway, I ended up coming back. Before that, I lived all over, not all over the country, not military. My mother was a hippie, so we traveled in a school bus and saw quite a bit of the country, which was very cool. But anyway, here I am, and I just love the community.
Larry Hewitt. I've been on the commission for about 2 years now. Lived here since 2008. I'm a retired banker, general troublemaker. That's me, right, Matt? There you go.
Dennis?
Welcome aboard, Scott. And nice job, you guys. It's a lot of pieces to put together for the housing stuff, but you did an excellent job. Let's see. I've been in town since 2002. I've been in planning since 1978 when they had Mylar, pretiographs and all that Zipatone good stuff. And still enjoy the craft. I still work a couple of days a week for Oak Harbor. So, yeah.
Senior planner, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't want to be the director. Been there, done that. So welcome aboard.
I guess it's my turn, isn't it?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, go ahead, Will.
Sorry I couldn't be there in person to actually meet you, but hopefully I'll see you next time. I grew up about 30 miles from here as the crow flies on Whidbey Island, not Oak Harbor. We're more civilized down south. I've been a planner for about 5 years or so, and I currently work for the county as a transportation planner and a regional trails and active transportation coordinator. My title just keeps getting longer and longer. So I'm excited to see another Texan planner coming around here.
Thank you, Will.
Thanks.
Okay, Scott.
Okay, I'm Scott Radden. After college, I joined the Air Force, traveled the world, lived in Germany, Azores, coast, down south, kind of went everywhere. And then I went back home to Casper, Wyoming, and I was with a private firm, engineering, surveying, and planning firm for 17 years. I was their GIS guy and planner. So I was a planner for 3 small towns around the city of Casper, 3,000, 3,500, and 5,000 population. So very familiar with the smaller town feels. And then I went down to Arizona. I got tired of the cold and the wind. And I went down to Arizona and Tucson and lived there for a while. So yes, I know the desert. And after 5 months of straight 100-degree weather, I said, no. I was looking for warmer, but not that kind of warm. So my kids live in Bothell. Me and my fiance was wanting to get back closer. And found this. My cousins lived in Bremerton for years now. They're up in Friday Harbor. My uncle that moved to Tucson was in Bremerton, but I think they're missing it up here too because it's hot. I'm very happy to come here. These guys have all my schedule planned out for the next 2 years in 2 days. So I'm going to be plenty busy, and I'm sure I'll see a lot of you. But I just want to thank you as the Planning Commission because it's always been my favorite commission out of anywhere is dealing with my commissioners. And thank you for your volunteering because it's a huge help to the community.
Okay, well, thank you and welcome to Squim. I think you'll love it. It's a pretty special place.
Except my car's in PA getting transmission probably getting having to get replaced. But other than that, it's
Okay. All right. Well, welcome. Does anybody else have anything for the good of the order? Okay, it's time for our last glorious agenda
I
item.
make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, meeting adjourned at 7:05. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.